Megan from Manifesting Me. Thanks for joining me. I write, talk about, and teach manifesting. I have a book available on Amazon.com called The Pocket Guide to Manifesting. I also do customized one-on-one sessions, which I've linked to in the description box of this video in case you're interested. And if you like this video, please give it the thumbs up. It does help other people find it. Thank you again. So what I want to talk about today is cleaning up our environment, the things that we're exposed to in our everyday lives that could be affecting our vibration and that we might not even be aware that it's happening. That has to do with the subconscious mind, which is a big part of our manifesting ability. Our subconscious mind is like a sponge and just takes stuff in. It really doesn't have a filter. The conscious mind has a filter and is much more discerning, and that, the conscious mind is the part of our brain that, I'm using it to put together my sentences right now and to, do critical thinking and whatnot. But we have this subconscious part of our mind, which represents a large portion of basically our brain power, and it just takes in everything. And so we've got these wonderful senses that are constantly absorbing data points from our environment, and they're all just going into our subconscious. We might not be consciously aware of what's going in there, but trust me, stuff is getting in. So there's things to think about in terms of what we can see, what we can hear, what we can feel even. I mean, there's, so outside of the five physical senses, we then have our extrasensory senses that we need to take into account. So empaths tend to absorb feelings from the environment that they're in. And I started years ago. This was one of the first things that I did before I even really knew what manifesting was. But I knew I wanted to create a better life for myself. And one of the ways that I could do that and kind of take control was to clean up my stinking thinking. So, in the first step that I talk about in the Pocket Guide to Manifesting, my first of the 4 easy steps to manifesting life beyond our fondest dreams is to get positive, lay a positive foundation. And that involves becoming aware of what's around us, what we're taking in on a daily basis, and starting to do an inventory of, well, what can change? What can we take control of and say, I don't think I love that coming into my mind. And especially if it's coming in and I'm not really consciously aware of it, I'm not sure I want to, I don't think I want that slipping by the gatekeeper. So it's, think about things like, I don't know, we'll start with some easy things, what we distract ourselves with musically, TV shows, movies, things we watch, websites that we visit. A lot of times we're not thinking, we're just kind of letting stuff come into our ears or our eyes. And, it could be, I don't know, listen, for me, I stopped years ago watching shows that were too dramatic, that were too violent, that were, for my opinion, everybody has a different level that they can handle, right? I always go by, well, how do I feel? Good feels good, bad feels bad. If it feels good, it's a good energy for me. And if it feels bad, it's not a good energy for me. So I need to make a change. I learned very early on, because I'm sensitive, that I can't take certain levels of drama, and I can't take, violence. I can't take gratuitous violence, and I certainly can't take realistic violence. So I cut those out. What else? Listening to music, I love words, and so lyrics are important to me, and that's been the case for a long time. And I noticed myself shift through the years away from songs that were, sad, talking about breakups, talking about how hard life is, things like that. And instead, I tend to go towards songs that are more upbeat, that talk about love, that talk about happiness and possibilities. There's always a time and a place for a good sad song or something that reminds us of an earlier point in our lives and somehow it feels comforting. That's great. But generally speaking, when I'm listening to music, I'm very aware of the lyrics. I'm very aware of how I'm feeling when I'm listening to it. If I feel good when I'm listening to it, Again, good feels good, bad feels bad. So I use that as my compass. It keeps me on track. What else? So websites, places on the internet where, a lot of people on their sites, and I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, as I continue to develop more peace and harmony in my life, which of course means it, kind of starts in my brain, right? I've decided that I'm going to be more peaceful. So I kind of seek out peace, I cultivate peace. It's really hard for me to be on websites that have like a bunch of stuff just popping around, ads that pop up, and there's like, you know, pop-ups about sign up for this and all kinds of stuff on the side. And then as you're reading an article you might enjoy, there's all these ads like just kind of punctuating odd parts. Websites that don't have any of that stuff on them, I love going there. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to praise this web owner or web designer for just having such a clean palette, because it just feels so much better to me as opposed to just that noise. And you just think about it. And again, these are my things that I've cleaned up for myself. You kind of everybody has to figure out for themselves what their tolerance is, what their levels are, what feels good to them, what doesn't feel so good to them. But those are things that I noticed, even being on, social media, where it's possible, we look at what we look at, but there's all this stuff, going on in the side or the background. And you might think, well, but I'm not looking at that stuff. Again, the subconscious mind is absorbing it because we see things that we don't consciously record, I'll say, but it's actually getting into our subconscious. And so I am just hyper aware of that stuff. So, those are things to be aware of, and think about other areas of your life where, there could be things happening around you that before you never even considered, oh, could this be, messing with my vibration in a way that I'm not thrilled with? Okay. Well, take it under advisement and see if there's anything you can do. As far as adding good stuff in, I mean, you can see a little bit of, my background, just a tiny bit, but, decorating in my home. And, Jim is of the same opinion, which makes it really easy. So we're really good cohabitators like that. We keep it simple, we keep it clean, bright. When we found this house, that was one of the must-haves on the list, was for it to be bright and airy. And for me, that means having windows all around me because I just love light. And decorating is, things that are just feel peaceful to us. It might be, I've got a drawing on the wall that a friend of mine did of a Buddha. And, we've got little statues here and there. And, there's a heart wreath that you can see a little portion of. So things like that just when I look at them, they make me feel good. And then I also go through and over time, I look at things, and if I've kind of kept things very normal, I mean, there's people who kind of hold on to things and they keep things for years and years and years. Maybe somebody gave it to them, whatever the case is. It used to have sentimental value. I kind of take inventory and look around every so often and think, does that thing still make me feel good? And isn't there a show on Netflix, or there's a woman who became very famous doing this, like look at an object and see if it brings you joy. So this is probably nothing new to anybody who watches stuff like that. And I've not seen the show, but I've heard of it. So, it's figuring out, how does this make me feel? And if it makes you feel good, hold on to it. And if it doesn't make you feel good, maybe find a new location for it. I've certainly changed around a lot of things because maybe somebody gave me something that they were important to me at one point in life and we were close and the relationship felt good. And then maybe something happened where the relationship is no longer one that brings comfort. And so looking at an object that might be from, reminiscent of that time can be suddenly a little bit of, So maybe we just kind of, relocate. Even our relationships with certain people who might have been a fit at one point and we might have been, in resonance energetically. And then as time moves on and if our vibration changes, we might find that we're no longer an energetic match. And so to continue to try to spend time with people who when we walk away from an experience with them, we feel like, we've had to kind of pull our energy in and our vibration feels low, or maybe our mind feels chaotic. It's not the person's fault. I want to get that clear real quick. It's really, people are people. We all just who we are. But this is really about becoming aware of what we expose ourselves to, and that includes conversations and interactions and exchanges that we have. There's people who will always be in our lives and who always kind of might be in an energetic place that doesn't quite feel like a fit for us. And it doesn't mean we have to drop down to that energetic vibration, to that, to a lower vibration to be with them. We can still stay where we are and kind of hold our own light. We might just have to ground in and really center. And sometimes it's, we'll trying to just redirect conversations. If the person just wants to kind of complain and talk about everything that's wrong, certainly their prerogative. If that's not making us feel great, and maybe we can try to steer the conversation to something that's a little more neutral, something that where there's commonalities. It's worth a try. So you may have some other tips, some areas that you're aware of. One other quick thing that comes to mind is commercials. That's something, if I'm in the car, I do love listening to music, and there are certain stations where we have some great kind of alternative stations that I just love listening to. As soon as it hits a commercial, though, even I don't even risk it. On the one station, they're just like local ads for restaurants and things. So they don't really get into some of there's some stations that play like lawyer liability commercials and all kinds of things, just putting kind of scenarios in a person's mind that it's like, oh, do we really want that in our head? So I don't even risk it. I'm just like, oh, commercial time. And I just turn off the commercials and wait for the music to come back. But in any case, so those are my tips for, how I go about kind of cleaning up my environment and just being more aware of what I'm letting in. Oh gosh, and here I'm thinking of some other tips. Sorry, so in terms of like decorating, this is, I won't even try to edit this into the right spot. I'll just say it really quick. Putting things around the house that can also, if you're kind of in a phase of trying to reprogram something and you're really trying to, get yourself from one set of beliefs to another, putting affirmations in places where you're going to see them every day is wonderful. I used to put them in my bathroom, on the mirror. I would put them on the refrigerator, any place that I was going to go. And again, you don't have to be looking at them directly. That's the beautiful thing about the subconscious mind, is that as long as it's somewhere in our environment, we're absorbing it, and it's hitting us, and it's affecting our energetic frequency. Okay, so now I'm really done. Thanks so much for being here. Again, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps others find it in our community. And if you want to subscribe, if you want to know when new videos are posted. I'm thrilled you were here. I'm looking forward to next time. In the meantime, happy manifesting.